Well, Jim, I'd like to ask you an off-topic question here because I thought this was fascinating. I saw an article the other day in the New York Post and it made me think about all the conversations we've had about professional wrestling history that's been wiped. The tapes were wiped. They were recorded over, they were used again, they were cleaned.
Yes.
There's a lot of things from places like Los Angeles, Tennessee, where even if there's history of other stuff from other territories, that stuff's gone. And I thought this was very interesting. It's an article from the Post by Mark Lungarello. Ailing Doctor Who superfan spends fortune to recreate 97 lost episodes to see the complete series before he dies.
What?
Much like wrestling, Doctor Who, which is a British institution and a public television institution for years here in America, Doctor Who, despite the popularity worldwide, the early seasons especially, there are complete story arcs that are gone. That the BBC in the 70s erased them to use for other things. So for those episodes, some I believe there are audio recordings, much like with wrestling where we don't have video, but there's some audio examples. They have behind the scenes photos, or I think maybe in some case, home footage.
Yes.
They have other things to use to kind of know what was there, but those episodes are gone. So before we go any further with this, what are your thoughts on that? Something like that, a big show, starts in the early 60s, and in the 70s, they start erasing those tapes.
Well, that surprises me because obviously with the wrestling promoters, we know why that happened. There was no home video. There was no reruns. There was no really reusing the footage past. They would save great angles because they knew, oh, we'll show this again when the Sheik comes back or whatever. But with local television in general, it was an expense thing. The story of Lance Russell, when he was program director at WHBQ in Memphis, they had the Dance Party show, which was kind of like a cross between Soul Train and American Bandstand, where they had all the Memphis musicians, the soul greats, and you'd imagine the famous musicians that lived and were in and around Memphis coming in doing live shows that they didn't save the tapes of. They just reused them. So on a local television basis, that happened for years also, but almost I can't think of an American television series, especially one that started in the 60s, that was either a network show or was syndicated in any kind of wide, meaningful way, that the footage, the tapes, the film, whatever, it doesn't exist in some form. I mean, even Jackie Gleason came out with the lost episodes, The Honeymooners, that he had locked up in his vault. That was from the 50s kinescopes. They kept network television shows because there were sponsors and production companies and people that they knew there was always going to be replay of television shows in some respects. So I can't understand, especially in the 70s, erasing any episodes of a popular TV show.
Well, let me go to this article here. Sometimes truth is stranger than science fiction. An ailing Doctor Who superfan spent a mini fortune to recreate 97 lost episodes of the series using AI, so he'd be able to watch it all again before he dies. London music producer Ian Levine, 71, sold his royalties to finance his mission to fill the gaps in the archives of the beloved British TV series that he said cost £100,000 or more than $130,000, even though he knows they will likely never be widely seen. I came very close to death 4 times, said Levine, who is battling nasal cancer and has been confined to a wheelchair since a stroke 11 years ago.
I've never even heard of that. Wait a minute. I've never heard of such a thing.
Nasal cancer.
Cancer of the nose.
Of the nasal cavity, technically, I guess.
Whatever.
And has been confined to a wheelchair since a stroke 11 years ago left him with limited use of his left side.
He's all right now.
I thought, I don't want to die having not seen them, so I made it my mission to see them before I die. I made a lot of sacrifices to do this. Levine, who has previously suffered from bladder cancer, sepsis.
What?
I don't mean to laugh. And
Which was funnier to you, the bladder cancer or the sepsis? Which one tickled you the most?
Well, no, it's just he has this current issue, and then this is all stuff in the past.
He's got some shit up his nose too.
Bladder cancer, sepsis, and single sarcoidosis, or whatever that is. Estimates he spent 70,000 pounds of his own dough, while a group of other Who fans chipped in 30,000 pounds through a donation campaign. He searched the world, as far as Bangladesh and Turkey, to find designers up to the job of making moving AI images out of production photos.
They got a lot of cutting-edge designers in Bangladesh.
Well, they work cheap there. Making moving AI images out of production photos, notes, and the actual audio from the stories. For every good one I found 20 scammers who wanted you to send 100 pounds first, or I won't do it. And then I'll send you a clip, he told the Post in a phone interview from England. 19 out of 20 clips were absolutely laughable. Just countless trash. I got ripped off by 19 different people. It cost me at least 10,000 pounds in rip-offs. Since the AI remakes are not authorized by the BBC, he is now only sharing the videos with a small group of friends and fellow diehards who also contributed to the effort. Levine has been hooked on the show since it debuted in 1963 in the UK and was an unofficial fan advisor to the program. In the 80s, the BBC once had a policy of purging film after broadcasts that left major gaps in its archives, including the first...
Why would they do that?
Including the first 6 black and white seasons of Doctor Who, which focuses on the adventures of a mysterious alien who travels in time and space. Copies have turned up in private collections that have been found in foreign TV studios where they were shipped for broadcast, but the reality is many or most of those still missing no longer exist in any form. So the BBC apparently, Jim, to summarize a little bit more of the rest of this, made recreations using cartoons. They used animation to, in some cases with the audio they had, in some cases not with the audio they had, to recreate the story. Ian Levine here, who has a Facebook group I know, he spent money to recreate it with AI. And now this is still early in the lifespan of AI, but I've sent you a clip which allegedly has some footage of what it looks like, just a montage. If you want to see what AI recreating television from England in 1963, what that looks like.
Yes, and I have that clip. And let me just say, if he wanted to spend a lot of money on something that wasn't going to be widely seen, why didn't he just invest in AEW?
Well, Tony's not looking for outside investors.
First question I had, but I'm clicking on this link. Son of a bitch. I'm going to mute it because it's fucking loud. 97 missing Doctor Who episodes. It's very spooky in terms of the faces aren't all moving even when the mouths are, but goddamn, this is clearer black and white television than I'm used to from 1963. Audio isn't bad. I'm listening to a little audio. Yeah, shit, my rabbit ears wouldn't have had a picture anywhere near this clear.
Oh, so you actually you like it. Okay.
They look halfway legitimate. This is not in high def, but it looks better than, like I said, the old Ken. Have you seen any of the Avengers episodes before Emma Peel joined and they really started spending money on them? When it was just Patrick McNee and the other fucking guy, and it was 2 guys, and it was shits. But the quality of the picture on those episodes, it sucks. This looks pretty fucking nice. Well, now we don't need actors.
And again, this is derived, and it'll only be improved upon, but this is derived just from photos, audio, and notes.
Yeah, that's insane. I wish I could have done Smoky Mountain Wrestling like this.
Well, there's still time.
I don't think there's enough time for me to get really interested in doing that again.
If you want to spend 100,000 pounds, you could book all the stuff you always wanted to book and never got a chance to. Living or dead, it doesn't matter. AI.
I could have the wrestling bear as the mystery partner. I never got to do that.
Or Joe LeDuc.
Well, I tried to do that, but he didn't cooperate.
But what do you think?
Well, that's very yes, and the monsters are odd also. Well, now I've clicked off and I've clicked onto something else. I'm back on just a random YouTube page here. What did I do? But very odd. Yes, there we go. The missing episodes of the Doctor.
Well, again, what do you think of the idea of someone doing this for wrestling? We have audio for a lot of stuff that there's no video. There may be some pictures, at least for studio wrestling, if not a picture of that day, a picture of what it looked like in general. What do you think of someone using AI to recreate wrestling that is lost?
Well, see, that I don't think is doable, because with this is a TV show, so they even had some audio, so they have pictures of the actors. They can walk around and talk to each other. And you can create a, shaggy space monster that can walk around and throw boulders or whatever. But without video of the wrestlers, you wouldn't have any frame of reference to even tell AI what their wrestling looked like. So it would default to what AI thinks wrestling looks like, which would be modern wrestling. So the whole reason to have footage of that, so you could see the way these guys used to do it, it may be, I guess you could feed the AI some film of other wrestlers doing shit in 1953, but then you would get, Sputnik Monroe wrestling Billy Wicks, but he looked like Buddy Rogers against fucking Pat O'Connor. You see what I'm saying? It wouldn't be unique to what made that person special. For something I was writing and talked to you about a few weeks ago, Pat Malone is the Green Shadow, drew all that money in Nashville and Knoxville and Birmingham, all over the South. Before television, there is no way to see how he wrestled, because it doesn't exist. So you could take a picture of him and, I guess, plug it into the AI with another wrestling match of somebody else from 1943, but how would you couldn't get there, could you? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You may be able to at least replicate the look, but if the only thing
he'd just be doing something somebody else did,
exactly,
which wouldn't be the idea.
Yeah, the only thing you could derive the style from would be written notes of what his style was, because there is
there are none.
Exactly.
He used soap into Babyface's eyes, and the people tried to pull him out of the ring and kill him. How do you, how would you recreate that with any specificity?
What do you think about using AI to do storylines differently? And every storyline gets to a point where the fans think they know better, it should go a different way. With AI, you could do that. You could see how your outcome would work in front of
Jesus Christ. You can do that with regular intelligence too. Just if you're too goddamn predictable, change it up a little bit. You don't need fake intelligence. A lot of people are working with fake intelligence these days, from the government on down.